Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Mortgage Coach Tuesday coaching call. Every Tuesday morning, 9 o'clock p.m. or a.m. Pacific time, we're here to connect as a community. My name is Dave Savage. I'm the CEO of Mortgage Coach, and we believe at Mortgage Coach that advice is your number one ultimate competitive advantage. So today's call is going to be more about how you can take that to the next level. We believe in making mortgage advice simple and valuable for both borrowers and realtors. So every Tuesday we do these coaching calls. Every Thursday at 9 o'clock a.m. we do a training call. We get into the details of how to use the product and really drive these strategies. And every Fridays there's a beginner's course. So 9 o'clock Pacific, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, there is training for everybody on this call. And everybody on this call, by the way, you're a Mortgage Coach leader, so tell others in your office about these calls so they can take it to the next level. This call will be recorded. It will be uploaded within the hour into our YouTube channel. Last week's call, we've already had 155 people view that on YouTube. It was a great call. I got lots of takeaways. I am going to do a little bit of an update on that. But I wanted to remind you guys that we are now creating these quick hits. So could be 1 minute, could be 5 minutes. Every once in a while, it might be 15 minutes. But we're taking what was the real big takeaway that we could put in just a simple 5-minute teaching that all you sales managers and leaders can play at your sales meetings. We realize an hour call, that's one type of meeting. But what can we pull out of these things that are 1 minute, 5 minutes, never longer than 15 minutes that you can bring to coaching calls? So we've got 4 quick hits: the Miracle Morning, and Jeremy Forcier's top 5 questions to realtors. I'm going to mention the other 2 quick hits in just a minute. First, I want to introduce Anthony. Anthony, it's great to have you on a coaching call again. I think this will be your 3rd time.
Third or fourth. I've been here a lot. Thanks for having me back.
Well, for anybody who has not heard one of Anthony's call, I mean, this guy is a sales guru. Writes a lot of his blog posts. I think is the best when it comes to just good wisdom for salespeople to take it to the next level. He had a post, 7 Enemies of Success, that I thought was really relevant. So he's going to do a 35-minute session on what are the 7 enemies of success, really geared towards salespeople. Anthony, real quick, I would like, as I have this conversation with Danny, to have you co-host that with me. So feel free to jump in. But real quick, what are some of the ways that people can connect with your blog? I know you're writing. Are you in Success Magazine now?
Success Magazine every 2 months, and September is going to be a big month. I've got the feature article on how to build consensus with buyers, and more buyers are buying by consensus now, and you need more people to say yes, even though everybody can say no. There's, I think, a couple thousand words there, and then there's another article I wrote about hiring. So for sales leaders, there's some great advice in there about hiring, and for the first time they've attached it to a YouTube video. There's a link in there where you can go to a YouTube video with more supporting information. So you can always find me at Success Magazine. I've got a page there on their site, and of course thesalesblog.com, best place to find me. You can connect with me every way imaginable there.
Yeah, so again, I read all of your content, share it at sales meetings. You're really valuable to us here at Mortgage Coach, and thank you for making time to be on another call here.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let's bring in our first guest. So anybody who was on last week's call, you got a flavor for Danny Gigabyte. By the way, Danny, I just want to call you Gigabyte. Is that cool?
I don't know about that. I give Bill some allowances, but there's limits to this.
Okay. All right. Well, I had to throw it in there. And by the way, when I was preparing for the call and I did a Google search, it showed up. And so I'm like, wow, man, this is really the name. So
yeah, it's a thing now, I guess.
Okay. Well, I'll try to. I wish I'd known that. I'll keep it off the next slides.
No problem at all. We always have a good time,
Yeah, well, I loved it, and I thought it really aligned nicely with the Mortgage Coach community. So first of all, anybody that missed last week's call, Bill Gaylord and Danny delivered just a tremendous 1-hour conversation. Think of it as a virtual site visit into their mortgage practice. Few of the highlights from last week, and by the way, there were dozens, but I thought, from the feedback I got on Facebook, people emailing me, I had multiple people tell me how much they loved the cash versus mortgage analysis. I had multiple people tell me what a great reminder on doing annual reviews. You know, it was a good push for people to start doing that. You know, I thought my two favorite takeaways were how you are using Edge videos to keep the borrower updated throughout the process. It wasn't just to win the business, but it was to continue to communicate with them. And by the way, we made a quick hit around that. So everybody there is just a tight 4 minutes and 13-second quick hit on how these guys are using Mortgage Coach to communicate pre-approval, contract, approval, docs out, change of circumstance. So 4 minutes on that, you know, play it at your next sales meeting. And then another big one was how you guys are getting just an incredible conversion rate on referrals from listing agents, and you're using Edge to do that. So I think the idea of getting referrals from listing agents, we've heard that before, not a new idea. Getting a 70% conversion rate, I don't know too many people doing that, and you guys had just a great message around that. And guys, there's another quick hit. That one was 6 minutes and 9 seconds, but just awesome insight to play at a sales meeting and to share with others on your team. Hey, Danny, before we get into the conversation of the day, anything you want to add to those?
You know, as far as those cross-qual and listing agent referral wins that we're getting, you know, a lot of that, you know, kind of dramatic increase in conversion has been pretty recent, and it's not just, you know, the Edge presentation is a huge part of that, and I'm gonna talk around, I think, in the interview coming up here, some of the key reasons why I believe that it is so powerful as far as the Edge presentation goes. But one of the other pieces of it is that we're essentially up against a lot of other professionals out there or loan representatives that are really providing no value to the customers. They're just putting themselves and representing themselves as an interest rate, and we're not even in this listing agent or cross-call referral presentation that we give. We're very explicit up front that our intention is not to steal them with interest rate. We're not there to undercut the person they've been working with for, you know, weeks, months, days, whatever it ends up being. But more importantly, we're there to show them that there's an alternative model for advice that may be more valuable to them than the person that they're working with at that time. And that's what's we've shifted that conversation away from, you know, kind of just scavenging to really providing an alternative vision for how the mortgage process can be for them. So that's really been the game changer for us on those listing agent referrals.
Good. Well, I thought it was a great takeaway, and if you weren't on the call, listen to this video, and if you were on the call, share it with others on your team. So, Danny, let's get into it. You know, we are at 9:09. I would love to have about a 20-minute conversation that represents, you know, a perfect borrower conversation. You know, what does it look like to be a borrower and communicate with you? So let's just, you know, as we do that, let's, as a bookend, start with your why. Even though I know we talked about this last week, let's just do 1 minute on why are you using Mortgage Coach, you know, how you deliver that, and then literally, you know, within 20 minutes, let's net this thing out. So what's your why real quick?
So the why here, which you know everybody can read, is that I think the core of it is that people are coming in, you know, clients, even clients that have purchased multiple houses, they're coming into a really complicated and potentially detrimental financial decision. And there's a lot of fear associated with that. You know, a lot of people have never had to, you know, document their income as thoroughly. They've never had to make decisions the way they have to now because of the complicated mortgage market that we're in. They've really never had to fight for offers the way they have in the past. So they come in with a lot of anxiety, and we found that Edge, as you can see from these questions, responds to that fear and the concern that they have very directly, and it gives them what I like to describe as an anchor point to make their decision. And we're not making the decision for them; we're sharing them the information that they need to make a good decision. So as you can see, and I think we can all agree that most people do ask themselves, you know, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And am I making a good decision? And with Edge, we can guide them to the answers to those questions.
Okay, so let's just talk about what are what does it sound like in the first 5 to 10 minutes as you're, and again, we want to net this out quick, so we don't want to just role play a 20-minute conversation. But what are some of the questions that you're asking? How are you positioning yourself as an expert that aligns with the delivery of a mortgage coach experience?
So I think the first thing to talk about is really the pre-framing of how we even get to the EDGE presentation to begin with. So the way we have set up this chain of events is that we don't enter into the Mortgage Coach EDGE presentation until we've fully collected all their documentation, we've run their credit, we've analyzed whether or not they're pre-approved, what programs they're pre-approved for, and we've had an opportunity to set up a couple of scenarios that we believe, based on the success of past clients, will really speak to the needs that they have. So the important part there is that we've already asked a lot of the questions about what they need, what their available down payment funds are, where the source of those funds are going to come from, what their ideal monthly payment is, and why they've come to that conclusion that they want to be at $2,500 a month instead of $2,700 a month, even though they might be able to qualify for that $2,700 a month payment. And we talk around what I call the pressure points, what the guardrails they've set up in their mind that we either need to respect or challenge based on what we find once we kind of put all the presentations side by side to each other. And a good example of that, and I think we went over it last week, is that the cash versus, or the large down payment versus larger loan amount. That's one of the times when we'll challenge somebody's preconceived ideas of what they really need for themselves by sharing with them new details. So we do a lot of pre-framing, and the lead up to the Mortgage Coach presentation is a lot of kind of breadcrumbs where we don't really, we don't give too much as far as details in terms of rate, program, because we really want the EDGE presentation to be the tool that we use to frame those things. So it's a lot of messages about how we're really looking forward to sharing with them all these details. It's gonna, and we let them know in advance that it's going to be in the format of this presentation. Got it.
So there's questions. I'm sure you're asking, how long do you want to be in this home, so you can kind of assess if we're going to do an ARM 5-year, or consider a 5 or 7 year ARM. Are there any other questions that you're asking so that when you do put together mortgage options, you can really tailor something that is very, very personal to them?
Another question along that same line, Dave, and it's about, timing is a huge part of financial decision making, not just in choosing mortgages, but in really any financial decision. You have to look at it the time horizon in order to really decide what the best call is going to be. So when we ask people, what their timeline is to make the decision about ARM versus fixed, or paying points versus not paying points, which again has a time function associated with it, we ask them, what their future plans might be. Would it make sense for them to keep the property as a rental? And if they were going to keep it as a rental, what would we do differently in terms of strategizing for future cash flow? Or we talk about, the possible, structures that might improve the resale, or, giving them, for example, if it was like a self-employed person, maybe an equity line of credit is better than a 10% down because it can give them a little bit of cash flow flexibility. So we try to tailor it not just to their needs for purchasing the home, but how the mortgage as a tool can integrate to their bigger financial picture. And the only way we can do that is to collect the documentation and then ask those next level questions. And just in the interest of time, and probably the fact that they just don't pop immediately to my head in this context, those next level questions are really tailored, as you said, to the borrower's needs.
Got it. So I think a takeaway for everybody, we all know the basic pre-qual questions. I think the big takeaway here is Danny has next level questions that are very tailored to the customer, that are really drilling down on their needs. Another question while we're on this, I want to make sure everybody's adding to their repertoire if it's not already there, is how old do you want to be when your home is paid off? So that you kind of finding out what are their goals in terms of paying off their home, or you have enough money in the bank to pay off your home as a strategic decision, and then based off of the current loan that we're getting you into, or we're looking at, how old are you gonna be? And usually what you're gonna find out is what they want and what they're going to be are two different things. They want to be 50, but they're going to be 60. Or they want to be 60, but they're going to be 70. So add that in the questioning. But I think the takeaway, at least in the conversation with Danny right now, is it's the next level questions that matter. It's not just the questions to get the pre-qual. It's the next level personal, really making it relevant to them. So Anthony, we were well on track here, but do you have anything you want to add to this before we move on?
What's interesting, and maybe Danny can speak to this, what I heard with what you said, Danny, was that you're slowing down to go faster. You're taking time in this needs analysis, and even though you might have done this transaction hundreds of times, and you may know what the answer to the question is just by looking, you're spending time letting your client go through that process and come to that understanding of what they really need in a way that respects it respects their decision, and it respects them as an individual. So you're just giving them more time. Do you find that spending more time and going slower on the front end makes things go faster on the other end when you get to the presentation and you finally share with them all the insights that you have?
Oh, absolutely, Anthony, and that's really our whole team model is from start to finish, not just in the edge presentation piece, is really designed around that idea that the more we can front load the job, the easier it is for everybody down the chain, the more successful we can be in terms of setting expectations properly, and that's really what this is all about. I mean, you kind of alluded to the fact that the mortgage and the home purchase process is a journey for these people. It's hugely important for them. It may be the most important thing that they do in the next 10 years is make the decision to buy a new home for their family, and how they finance that home is hugely important to them, and we need to respect the importance of that by slowing down and recognizing that in those moments that you have them on the phone, they have to be the most important thing that you're doing, because this is the most important thing that they're doing. And just as you said, slowing down, you're respecting and honoring the fact that this is so important to them.
And this is really the battle that we're in as sales organizations and salespeople today. We all have to decide for ourselves, do we want to behave transactionally, or do we want to differentiate ourselves by being a value creator, what I call a level 4 value creator, somebody who becomes your trusted advisor, consultative salesperson, strategic partner, whatever words you want to use to frame that up. But by giving them that respect, you're getting trust, you're proving that you care more about getting them the outcome than you do closing them. And that's the kind of thing where you're going to build that relationship, and it's going to allow you to move faster later on when you get to where it's time to start presenting and asking for these commitments, because you've really gained their trust. And I think that this is, if I were listening to this and I'm somebody in your mortgage space, the question that I would want to ask myself is, am I really giving people that respect and earning their trust, or am I behaving like this is another transaction? Just because it's maybe the 5th time I've had this question today and the 1,000th time I've had it, in my career, for this person it's the most important decision they're going to make in the next decade and maybe in their lifetime.
Yeah.
And along those lines, Anthony, one of the things that the way we frame it, or the way I frame it in my mind, is by the time I have them on the phone in the edge presentation, I've already sold them a loan. Like, they're there. That part is solved for. So it becomes almost fun to take the next step with them. And it's only after that, I guess, decision is made in your mind that you don't have to sell them anything. That part's already done. They've walked in the door. Then now we get to take the step of asking those questions, as Dave suggested, not to continue to sell them, but to genuinely provide them good advice.
Yeah. So
and
guys,
that's value creation.
Yeah, and we're talking to a gentleman who's part of a team that closes 30 units plus a month, and I can't tell you how many times, as a leader of mortgage coach, I've talked to loan officers, why aren't you giving every single client a total cost? And they're like, well, I don't need to, or I don't have time. And that mentality to everybody on this call is just, hey, if you want to wow someone, if you really want to create, a deep connection that makes a smooth transaction, improves the conversion of the transaction, maximizes the referrals, you slow down. You slow down. If these guys could do 30 units a month by slowing down, everybody who's struggling to do 8 or get past 5, slow down. When you're meeting with a customer, slow down. So real quick, because we've got about 9 more minutes left, Danny, what does slow down mean? How much time are you spending in this part of the consultation? Are we talking, an hour, or are we talking 30 minutes? What does slowing down mean from a time perspective?
So the average person, I take about 30 minutes on the phone with them. Now, some customers, clients they're done in 10. They see it, they say, I get it, pick option 2, and they're out. But others really do want to understand it and have fun with it. This past Saturday, I met with somebody and we went through about an hour and a half conversation. But they had a lot of decisions to make: 30-year fix versus 15-year fix, moving all the equity from their sale versus doing only 20% down. So we had a kind of a layer of choices to work through. So it took a little bit extra time. But I would say on average 30 minutes, which I can tell you, Dave, if you take that 30 minutes and do it right up front, you're going to avoid another 30-minute conversation when the good faith estimate goes out. You're going to avoid another 30-minute conversation when they get their estimated HUD. You're going to avoid another 30-minute conversation when they get their docs out. I mean, you're really leveraging your time and investing it up front and avoiding all these other conversations that we all know we have. When we don't do it right, these things come up 100% of the time.
Got it. So anybody who's proud of a 15-minute that you drove and you really pushed a speed app, there's another way. So let's net it out on what the Mortgage Coach video is like. Now, again, we went into detail around why this is a great way to deliver mortgage advice in this email. So if you really want to drill down on the headline, don't put too much, too little. Listen to last week's call. But I do want to just net out, in a minute or two, when you deliver that Mortgage Coach experience, what are you saying in the video? Because this is an important part of your overall value proposition and how you deliver it. So, what are you saying? Maybe just net this out. This is a 10% down. Give us a feel for what you're going to say in this video, since you do this all the time.
If you notice that the video is 38 seconds, so high level, the video is a voicemail. You're not explaining the presentation in the video. You're inviting them to let you explain the presentation over the phone or in person. Because what I usually say in the video is, this is Danny with the Gaylord Hanson Team Caliber Home Loans. Leave my cell phone number so that they can get back to me as soon as possible. I let them know that this is the presentation that we referred to, that there's a lot of information here, and that this information can really help them make a good decision about the loan that they choose for financing the purchase of their new home, and that if they can take 15 to 30 minutes on the phone with me, I can walk them through this line by line and really put some context to the decision that they're making.
Got it. So really, you're showing them that you care, and everybody who's involved in the mortgage decision is seeing that you're delivering advice in a more valuable way. I think you mentioned that you do a lot of these in person last time, where you're actually driving the Mortgage Coach conversation. If they click on that link from a mobile device, they get mobile options. So wherever the borrower's at, they're getting the advice. And I think a big key piece for everybody is, remember, most of your leads are coming from realtors. So the only thing I would, and you probably do this, Danny, but if you're going to be looping in the realtor and it was a referral from a realtor, integrate them into the conversation. Say the prospect's name, recite their goals. I think Danny pretty much said that. Make sure I heard you. This is what I'm doing. Honor the realtor. And if you do that, guys, you're educating, you're delivering a higher level of transparency, and at the end of the day, there's more value. So, Anthony, anything you want to add to that, or any question you want to ask of Danny before we move on in the whole process?
I liked everything that you said there. I would just include one thing, is that when you respect relationships with the realtor, with the client in all these cases, it ends up creating a tremendous amount of value that turns into future business. It turns into referrals. It turns into them recommending you to their friends and family and other people because you cared enough. And you mentioned one thing when you were wrapping up what Danny does, and part of it was making sure that they knew you heard them. And there is no greater way to show another human being that you care about them and their interests than listening listening is the most important thing. And so while Danny's taken the 30 minutes instead of trying to rush them to 10, he's proving to them that he cares, and it just makes it easy to say yes to somebody who you know already cares about you. That's a big takeaway.
Yeah, no, good punch around that. One last thing, think about it. If every time a realtor gives you a referral and you train them, hey, you can see what was mentioned by clicking on the link, you've also created a competitive barrier because your competitors are not doing this. So referring to business to you, like every lender, close loans on time, keeps promises, you're someone that I like, but you're delivering advice in a way that's just not duplicatable by most loan officers. So we got a few more minutes. I want to net out a few advanced strategies, Danny, and then if you could just, from a follow-up standpoint, how many times do you follow up? How does Edge help you follow up? Anything you want to add around follow-up?
Well, you already touched in the quick hit some of our in-process follow-ups, but we also use the Edge tool as the pre-approval process is evolving. So the home price changes, or they move to a different area that has Melrose or HOA, and we need to kind of update their expectations of monthly payment. So each time we generate a pre-approval letter, we do our best to go back and update the Edge presentation so that they're prepared for what that new property might look like for them.
Okay, cool. So let's hit on a couple quick advanced strategies, because I know when you and I were preparing for this, you forwarded me a cost awaiting. By the way, sneak peek, everybody. We've come up with a new infographic around why buy now. And so, Danny, why don't you really quick do a push around how you're using total cost to create urgency, or at least to help them make an informed decision?
Well, really, what we try to let people know is that they're making a decision for the most important thing's buying the house. They need that shelter for their family. So trying to take it away from this investment only mentality. But then when we revisit the investment piece, we say, look, we all know that rates only have one way to go, and that's up. And if you look historically and at future predictions for home prices, especially in our market here in San Diego, very likely to rise over the next 18, 24 months. So the idea that you might wait 6 months or 12 months is going to likely have two effects on you. One is that you're going to buy the exact same utility home for your family, same square footage, same neighborhood. You're going to pay more for that home. And even if you've increased your down payment to the point where you've saved up, if that was your trigger point, was 20% down versus a 10% down option, or there was some other trigger point down the road that was keeping you on the fence, that not only are you going to pay exactly the same or more on a monthly basis, any appreciation that happened from the point where you would have bought the house to the point where you did is almost a double whammy. So let's say it's $20,000, you paid $20,000 more for the same house, but if you had bought that house, that $20,000 would now be your equity. So it's really a $40,000 swing. And when people clue in to how powerful the time value of money is, and the extraordinarily low interest rate market that we're in right now is, it'll very often get them off the fence.
So for everybody out there, connecting the dots, when you're a loan officer that can not only do a pre-qual and close a loan, but you can help home buyers make a personally informed decision that drives urgency, you're of more value to realtors. So great strategy. Also, just a quick reminder on the strategy, because we had a lot of takeaways last week on the mortgage versus cash. When you're a loan officer that can have that conversation, and you can do it with infographics, you can do it with mortgage coach reports, you're a more valuable loan officer. So hey, Danny, you're just a great leader in the community. You guys, your entire team is awesome. My favorite takeaway was how you are leveraging Edge to not only win the business, deliver value, but how throughout the process of the loan you're updating the video around change of circumstances, docs out, an update on funding. We added annual review. Making sure that on an ongoing basis you train this borrower how to get advice and information from you. Now continue to do that every year. So Danny, any last words of wisdom before we wrap up your part of the conversation here?
No, just to say, Dave, how much I appreciate you and your team for providing us this amazing tool to clearly communicate to our customers all the stuff that's in our head.
Right on. Well, hey, feel free to stay on kind of role reversal now. So Anthony is gonna take over, but feel free to bring the voice of a loan officer and a leader in our industry. So I'm gonna bring Anthony into the call, but please stay on and feel free to add value as much as you want. Does that sound good, Danny?
Sounds good. Thanks, Dave.
All right. So Anthony, you are up to bat again. I think, like you said, this is, if not the third, the fourth time you've been in the mortgage coach community. I read your blog weekly. I saw a post around the 7 enemies of success that I thought was just a great teaching for loan officers. I mean, if you do want to make another comment, kind of wrapping up thoughts around Danny, feel free. I am going to pass you the screen so that you can share your slides and give us a little bit of a download from Danny, and let's go through your 7 enemies of success.
Yeah, I'll be interested to hear what Danny has to say about some of these and whether he can recognize people that he's seen in the business or in the community that are not as successful as they might be because they're faced with some of these challenges. Just before I get started, though, you got the screen?
I can see the screen.
Okay, awesome. Now I'm going to kick into this, but I'll take a breath and let you guys come in and add some color here. Here's what I think sales organizations need to succeed. They need mindset, they need skill set, and they need toolkit. And a lot of times we talk about skills. In fact, I think every time I've been on prior to this one, it's been mostly about skill set. What do you have to do to be a value creator? What do you have to do to overcome objections and resolve concerns? And I've been really tactical about that. You also need a toolkit. You need some things that you can lean on that make you more effective as a salesperson. You've got that with what Mortgage Coach offers. But Mortgage Coach offers something else. And every Sunday I send out a newsletter, and a lot of times that newsletter is not about the tactical skill stuff. It's more about mindset. And I recognize by looking at a lot of the salespeople that I've coached or worked with or that have worked for me, there are some enemies to having the right belief system. And without the right belief system, you're never as successful as you would otherwise be if you could change that mindset. So I want to share with you what the 7 enemies are. When I sent this email out to 25,000 people, I got somewhere near 400 or 500 emails back of people saying, I didn't know who my enemy was until I read this, and I know it's this one, and I didn't recognize that about myself before now. And maybe you'll recognize yourself or someone that you love and care about in these and say, really, now I have some ideas about what their obstacle is and how to help them. So let's zip into this. This is a cat biting the hand that feeds it. And the first enemy of success is a lack of gratitude. And people who aren't grateful don't recognize the opportunities that they've been given. People that aren't grateful don't respect the advantages that they have. They can't see past their own lack of gratitude to see what's really available to them. And in my view of this, what I've seen is that the lack of gratitude and being ungrateful really is the seed of negativity and cynicism. And people who aren't thankful for what they have, whatever it is, they look at things and they're very negative, very cynical. This isn't about me, it's about them. There's not enough. They have the scarcity mindset that comes with being ungrateful. And they don't do as well because they can't get out of their own way. And I would tell you, there's a remedy for this, but it's difficult for people to adopt. And really what you have to do is go on a negativity fast and remove all negativity from your life, which means you absolutely have to turn the news off. And you have to get up every day and start by saying, what am I grateful for today? What should I be grateful for today? And make a list of those things to remind yourself that if you've got your health, if you've got love, if you've got your family, you got a great head start. But it's really adopting a sense of gratitude that allows you to see and perceive all the opportunities around you. I'll pass this over, Dave, in case you want to add any comments as we go through each one of these, to you or Danny.
No, I think, yeah, so first of all, Danny, I mean, I could obviously, I've noticed people that I've either coached or worked with that fit this. Anything you want to add?
No, I can just say that it is so true that, starting off with the give first mentality is so much more powerful, and it resonates so much more with our customers, and not just outside, but internally with the processors, the underwriters, everybody that we work with.
And it's funny because as salespeople, we think our job is to close and to capture value, but you could never capture value without creating it first. I have people who criticize me continually for having an archive of every blog post I've written since 2009, and they say, you just give away your content. You need to charge people for the content. And by the way, how do you keep getting all these clients? And I say, you're missing it. It's the fact that I'm willing to give it away that things come back. So that's the first enemy of success. The second enemy is apathy. And people who aren't as successful as they could and should be sometimes just have a general lack of indifference or a lack of enthusiasm. And this is the surest and fastest path to mediocrity or even poor results. Because when you want to be successful, whatever that means to you, it means that you have to take action. You have to drive the results that you need that allow you to be successful. And when I look at people who are apathetic, the one thing that I notice about all of them, just without exception, they don't have a big enough why. There's no reason driving them. And because they have no reason driving them and they don't have a big why, they don't get up in the morning with a mission of I have to serve these people or I have to create these results. If it's not who they are and it doesn't define their identity and they're apathetic, they generally don't get much done, like this woman in the picture that you're seeing. But what you could do if you have this or you recognize it in other people that you're coaching, you're trying to help, or maybe somebody that's in your life, you have to help them find the bigger why. Why are you trying to succeed? Why are you trying to get that outcome? Because it's the list of the reasons why they want something or the why they need to do something that really drive people. It's really, if you have something that's inspiring, if there's a mission, if it's a vision, if it's your identity, it drives you forward. If it's not these things for you, you've got to find a bigger why, or you'll be apathetic and never produce the results you should. I'm going to just plow through unless you want to stop me, Dave.
No, I will stop you probably as you plow through it. Let's roll.
The victim mentality. People believe that they're a victim, and I recognize these people especially today. Today is a day where there's conflict in Israel with Gaza. There are immigrants flooding over the border. There is war going on in the Ukraine, and the United States is involved in continuing more aggressive sanctions on Russia. If you're happy with the current political party, you were unhappy with the last one, and if you like the last one, you don't like this one. And people that have the victim mindset believe that all these factors in the world are working on them and that they don't have agency. They're not an actor. They can't change their future. They're powerless. And it's a victim mindset. You recognize these people a lot because they're always consumed with the news. They're always consumed with what's going on. It's not my fault. It's the economy. You know how bad the recession was for the housing industry, right? No one made any money. No one's ever going to make money again. The economy's too bad. The president's not right. The Congress isn't right. My sales manager's not right. Our customers aren't right. They're always the victim in every story they have. But to help someone get agency, you need to help them make a list of their challenges and then make a list of the actions and help them come up with the actions and look at other people and say, listen, if that was true, how are all these other people succeeding? What are they doing different? But it really requires the mindset shift. They have to actually see this and be confronted with the fact that they believe external events are impacting their future more than anything they can do themselves. And you have agency. That's the great thing about being a human being, is you are free to act on your own behalf. You have resources available to you. You are powerful beyond anything that you can imagine. And as soon as you embrace that power and you're no longer a victim, you produce extraordinary results, the results that you're truly capable of.
You know, this one I would like to tailor a little bit to the mortgage industry just because we are going through tremendous compliance change. And also just, you know, the complexity of getting a loan funded is, you know, it's challenging. So I mean, my thought to the industry and, you know, what I see with loan officers that are super successful is that they're like, you know what, every time it gets more compliant, every time the transaction gets more complicated, it gives me a competitive differentiator to further separate myself. And they really do look at it as an opportunity. Now, I'm not saying from time to time there's some water cooler disenchantment, but at the end of the day, the most successful loan officers, they feel grateful that they can make the kind of money that they can make the kind of impact that they can make with people in the mortgage industry, and they all see compliance change and the complexity of closing loans as an opportunity. So I just want to shout that one out because it is very relevant to our industry today. And by the way, there's going to be lots of opportunities over the next, through the end of the year, as rates probably will increase, to continue to sing that song. So I just urge mortgage coach communities, say it's an opportunity. I mean, focus on how grateful we are to do what we do and what an opportunity it is as it gets more difficult to do business.
One of the businesses that I own is going to be tremendously impacted by the Affordable Care Act. And a lot of people are wringing their hands and gnashing their teeth about it. And for me, it's an opportunity. The people who figure out how to work within the confines of a new piece of complex legislation are going to take business from the people who sit on the sideline and pretend that they're a victim in this. And that's true in every industry. It's a mindset shift for sure. But that's why the chart that I put at the beginning, mindset, toolkit, skill set, starts with mindset. Because if you have the right mindset, you can see the opportunity. Without that mindset, you can't. This is one of my all-time favorites. I have people in my family who have this disease of learned helplessness. They believe that there's something that they can't do, that they can't learn, that there's no way that they could possibly figure out how to do it on their own, and so they're just not going to try. And I found this picture, which is a great metaphor. They roll themselves around in a wheelchair, but when they want to, they can climb up the steps anytime they decide to. And sometimes they do that when they don't have anybody else to pretend that they're helpless too. But believing that you can't do something is a repellent for success. It drives success away from you. Success is the result of recognizing that what one person can do, another person can do. And anything that you've seen anyone else do, whether it's in your industry, whether it's outside of your industry, it's possible. It's possible for you if you believe it. And you have to inoculate yourself from learned helplessness by always getting your hands dirty, always trying the things that you believe that there's no way you can possibly do it, and struggling to get better over time. And over time, your competence grows. But it's, again, this idea of agency. It's the ability of taking action on your own behalf that drives success. And I see this in every industry, and particularly in sales. The gray-haired guys, and fortunately I don't have any gray hairs, at least not on my head, since I shave them all off every morning. But the old gray-haired guys say, I don't know how to use a computer. I don't know, it's too complicated for me. I can't do this work. And that's a form of learned helplessness. Of course they can do the work. They've done more complicated things in the past, but they don't want to. It's easier to say I can't and to opt out. And I don't know what those activities are for you in the loan business. Maybe some of them are technological. Maybe some of them are dealing with complex sales, like complex objections and resolving complex concerns. But you can learn to do it, and as soon as you decide to act on your behavior, success follows almost immediately. I'll keep zipping forward. No vision.
Well, I do want to pile on that one. I do want to pile on that one too, because I do think the technology barriers for anybody that's like, oh, I'm not a techie. Guys, the highest valued, fastest growing company in history, Apple, is a technology mobile company. The technology is an advantage, and learning to use it at just some basic level of competency, it is possible for anybody and everybody. Now, there's no doubt I watch how my kids move a mobile phone, and I'm a techie, and how I do it, there's a difference. I mean, we are not them. But I just challenge everybody, embrace technology at a level higher than where you're at today, and it will reward you. And if you just change the mindset, you will take it to another level. I'm not saying everybody needs to be a techie and an innovator, but I do think anybody in today's age that's not leveraging technology and raising the bar for themselves, it is a missed opportunity. Continue to roll, Anthony.
I watched my son text his girlfriend last night with two thumbs, and I'm certain it's over 300 words per minute. They're at a whole different level than we are when it comes to technology.
Exactly. And we're not going to get there, but we could be better than where we're at today. At least most of us can.
We can be. No vision. And many people who fail, who don't succeed at the level they want to, don't have a vision of themselves. They don't have a vision of what their future result needs to look like. They tend not to have the motivation because they don't have that big enough why. And one thing I recognize about this group of people more all the time is that they absolutely refuse to write down their goals. And the success-minded people that I know, not only do they write down their goals, they have vision boards. They cut pictures out of magazines to say, this is what my life is going to look like. They think about where am I going and what is my life going to look like. They don't think about how am I going to pay this month's bill. They worry about that at some level, but not at the same level that the unsuccessful do. And the unsuccessful mostly are compelled by a small vision of themselves. They don't believe they can have something. They don't believe that they can get to that future. And without this vision, you can't reach success. So I would challenge you, if you're listening to this or you're helping somebody with this set of challenges, is to help them look and say, what could you be? Most people have way too small of a vision of themselves. They don't recognize how powerful they are. They don't recognize really that the difference between doing $1 million in sales and $2 million in sales isn't twice as much work. It's maybe 20% more work. But the people that are willing to have that vision of themselves and see themselves doing it are the ones that succeed. Fear of being judged. There are so many people that just suffer and will not take action on their own behalf because they're afraid of being criticized. They're afraid of putting themselves out there and sharing who they are and what they do. And they're afraid of somebody saying it means this about you. I know this, and I'm recognizing this more and more all the time, and in part because of the politics of the day, that success is sometimes frowned upon or scorned. You're not supposed to want money. Wanting money is bad. Wanting to be more successful or drive a nicer car or have a nicer house or send your kids to a better school is frowned upon. And there's more and more about the 1% and the 99%. A lot of people have a lot of fear about being judged because they want something more for themselves and their family. And it's okay to want those things. And people are going to judge you, but I would tell you it's a tough lesson to learn. What they think about you is really none of your business. And it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with the perception of themselves. And most of the time when we act aggressively on our own behalf and pursue success, there's some people who criticize us, but there's more people who applaud us because you serve as an example that you're allowed to do what you want to do, be who you're supposed to be, and bring that vision of yourself to life. Personally, I have a couple trolls that like to attack me on the social media sites. They're never going to love me. I'm not for them. They don't understand what I do, and at some level, they don't believe that I should have what I have, and that's fine with me. But I never pay any attention to them. In fact, just a quick story, I had one say something really aggressively bad about me. In fact, he wrote a whole long blog post about, I wish he would have kept it up. He took it down, but the title was, "Is Iannarino the most dangerous man in sales?" And I love that, and I would accept that title gladly. But I had people say, what are you going to do? What are you going to say to him? And the answer is nothing. I don't really care because he's not my judge. He's not my critic. I do this for the people that I serve and the people who need what I provide them with, and that's the value that I create. You've got to take action even when other people aren't going to understand why or what you do, and some people are never going to be happy with what you're doing no matter what it is.
So one thought on that is just the fear of being judged when it comes to creating videos and making an edge video for a client. I think the number one thing holding so many people back is they don't like how they look on videos. They don't like how they sound, and they feel that they're being judged. And Bill Hart, says it best. If you put Bill Hart into the Mortgage Coach app, he makes a really good point of that's who you are. So don't let being judged hold you back from creating videos that make your life so much easier, make you so much more successful. I really align that activity around what's holding so many Mortgage Coach members back. Get over it and just go out there and be your best. So good one, Anthony.
I didn't know that, but now I'm really happy that this is in there for people. And I'll tell you, there's some things I know. I fronted a rock band from 85 to 93, and your voice on video sounds different to you because you're always hearing it in your head. And you look different on video because you always see yourself in a mirror. And so you don't recognize or recognize your own voice when you do that. But let me tell you what people think about when they see you on video. Nothing. They don't judge you at all. That's all in your mind. Nobody looks at your video and says, wow, they really don't look good or they don't sound good. That is you. And it's Bill, right? Bill's right about that. That's you, and you have no fear there. If anybody thinks anything, and I get this as a public speaker all the time, they wish that they were comfortable on video. They're jealous that you're empowered enough to put yourself out there and speak directly into a camera. It's actually a form of power. Most people are not critical of you at all. They're jealous.
Just to add to that, I can just share my personal experience, Dave, that I really struggled with that for a long time, leading up to kind of fully utilizing the Edge presentation. And I would record the video and delete it, and I would do like 17 videos before I was happy with it. And it was so time consuming, and that may be why people say they don't have time to do it, is that they're spending 2 hours, re-recording their videos over and over. But when I finally just surrendered to the process and recognized that the people didn't really need, I didn't need to worry about what they thought, just as you said, Anthony, about me and my face and voice, but it was about the details and about the advice that I was giving. It was a game changer for me.
It's funny. I had a brain surgery in 1992, and I've had a piece of my front right temporal lobe along with a group of arteries and veins removed. And I'm a bald guy, but I walk around with this Frankenstein-like scar on my head that starts at the top of my forehead and goes to the back of my right ear. And I get on stage in front of hundreds and thousands of people with a giant scar on my head and tell stories about scars, because we all are what we are. And the more comfortable you are being that, the more authentic and real you are with people, the easier it is for them to connect with you, because we're all carrying our scars in one way or another. Danny's, the challenge that he has is being remarkably good looking on video. It's got to be a terrible burden for you, Danny.
Yeah, I've struggled with it all my life, Anthony.
The last one here is lack of discipline. And this is probably one of the most fundamental challenges I hear from people who admit what their enemy is. And they say, I procrastinate, or I'm a procrastinator. They actually define themselves with that word. They define their behavior as their identity by saying, I am a procrastinator. And if you want what you want tomorrow, you have to do what you have to do today to have that tomorrow. And success only comes to the people who are willing to suffer now to have their gratification delayed and arrive at a different time. And so each of us has things that we need to do daily disciplines. And we keep those disciplines because it's the surest and fastest path to success, even if it takes time and it builds over time. Personally, I have a tremendous amount of discipline in some areas of my life. I get up at 4:30 in the morning. If I sleep in, I get up at 5, and if it's on the weekend, it's probably 5:30 for me, 6 if I'm just getting crazy. I've written a blog post every day since December 28th, 2009, minus 10 days I was in Tibet, but that's my discipline. I run every day. Every day I run, and it's a discipline, but I know that by doing these things, I have the energy, I have the attitude, I feel good, and I have the vitality to go and do all the things that I do. So it's these little disciplines that add up. It's making the call that you don't want to make, but you need to make. It's following up with the clients. And I saw on Danny's presentation an annual review. That's a discipline to say we're going to touch base with this client again because the relationship is important enough for us to do that. Those are all disciplines. And without the lack of discipline, success doesn't follow. And I'll just give a quick wrap up on this so we have 5 minutes left. When you're a kid, you don't have any of these fears. You don't have any of these enemies. Unless, well, when you're a teenager, you're not grateful. But before you're a teenager, you're grateful. You're not apathetic. You engage in life with a great enthusiasm. You don't believe you're a victim when you're a kid. You believe you're a superhero and you can act on your own behalf. You can try anything. You don't have learned helplessness. Everything's available to you. You're willing to give it a go. You believe that you could grow up to be anything you want to be. You don't worry about the judgment, and you just engage with the activity every day. These are things that the world has put on top of you as you've gone through your life. And the sooner you identify which one's the enemy and deal with it, the faster success comes. So that's my pitch. This is all mindset. It's not the technical, tactical stuff, which I usually do here. But if you want that stuff, you can go to thesalesblog.com. Sign up for the Sunday newsletter for sure there. But there's also an archive. So if there's some area you want help, there's 1,800 posts. If you need my help, you can email me, and I'm happy to point you at whatever you might need.
Beautiful. So, I mean, I thought that was just tremendous reminders. Again, for everybody, hopefully you can see my screen. By the way, can you confirm, Anthony, there we can see your contact information on my screen?
No, I don't see your contact info.
All right. How about now? Your contact info.
There we go. There we go.
Okay, guys.
Contact info there now.
So again, if you don't already subscribe to this blog, highly encourage it. For any manager that heard today's call, if you'd love to have Anthony speak at an event, I just can't give him the highest accolades. There's a good chance Anthony will be at Sales Mastery, if not this year, one of these years, and just a tremendous leader when it comes to both selling from a very strategic level and a very tactical level. I thought I really liked this slide, Danny, where you talked about mindset, skill set, toolkit. I try to be very intentional at Mortgage Coach. You know, Tuesdays calls are for mindset. We do talk about some skills from time to time, and we always, you know, evangelize tools. But Tuesdays all about going deep with the toolkit. So we try to execute on this, but I thought it was a great reminder. I loved the 7 Enemies of Success. I mean, I save it, I read it, you know, forward it to family members, forward it to the sales team, but ungrateful, apathy, victimhood, learned helplessness, no vision, fear of being judged, lack of discipline. You know, my shout outs to the Mortgage Coach community around victimhood, make compliance your opportunity, around helplessness, make technology your advantage. No vision, go big. You're only going to be able to close as many loans as you believe that you can. And when it comes to videos, let's face it, get real with yourself. What's really holding you back? Is it time, or is it your fear of being judged? So hopefully this, you know, call will help drive some value around that. I encourage everybody on this call, you all invest in Mortgage Coach to be a modern loan officer. You know, make sure you're delivering a modern mortgage experience to every single buyer, because that's a fantastic way for you to make your value tangible. I do want to remind everybody, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, join us. Hope everybody checks out the quick hits. I'm pretty confident we got at least one quick hit out of today's call. So stay tuned. If anybody has a suggestion, what you thought was a 2 to 5 minute nugget, and I'm thinking about Danny's interview, maybe we'll turn that into a 15-minute teaching around a great Mortgage Coach conversation. But feel free to add some comments in the question area. I'll read those. If you thought there was a big takeaway that really resonated for you, either put it in the GoToMeeting or post it on our Facebook. So guys, I do have one hand raised from Frank Blakely. Frank, I have unmuted you. Did you have a question or a shout out on anything?
Yeah, I think we talked from last week's call in between there about that process and how Mortgage Coach is being used. And a couple key things that we've been working on heavily this year is not only lead conversion but lead incubation. And Mortgage Coach has really helped us out with the lead incubation portion of it because, you know, realtors are very good at sending us the live leads when they're ready to buy in 60 days. More of a challenge to convert a contact into a prospective buyer. And let's face it, part of that reason is you know, when people feel they're going to have a discussion with a lender, they're thinking, okay, here comes the chokehold. Here comes check my credit. Here comes and get into all the questions about my life, ask for everything but blood samples, and who knows, that might be coming down the road. And we've really used Mortgage Coach as a way to increase the conversation opportunities to start the financial planning. And then what the previous speaker, I apologize, but about going through the whole process using Mortgage Coach for updates, because as much as we've enhanced relationships, people are always shopping. And it's a good way, I mean, with having a cross-qual now on a lot of our deals, being able to stay engaged using Mortgage Coach and updating the numbers through the process in the pre-qual portion of it. Once they get into escrow, showing 3 different options and going there. And then once they've chosen an option, once you've locked the loan, updating it. Once they go to docs, they see all these detailed numbers. Mortgage Coach has really helped us summarize the numbers that match the details to really help increase the understandable portion of what we do. And it's really, I mean, just an example using the mobile, and you've been preaching this in my ear for years now once we come out with mobile, but a couple weekends ago I had an agent showing properties as family was in town for the holidays. They said, she's like, hey, I know we've done the numbers for this area, but we're going to another area right now with different Melrose rates. And I said, hey, tell them to download this app. And we updated the mortgage link, and they got to see the cost comparison of the two homes as they were on the way to the other property. So
Beautiful.
It's been a really good way to incubate, stay in touch, and make sure that not only in the cost of getting leads, but also the retention of leads is now increasing with our shop. So absolutely appreciate all you're doing.
Hey, thanks for the shout out and the push on that. Really appreciate it, Frank. So guys, I am going to push the poll. Let us know what you thought of today's call. And Anthony, 1 minute. Danny, 1 minute. Let's wrap it up. Go ahead, Anthony. Any last thoughts as we wrap up today's call?
Yeah, let me just comment quickly on Danny's conversation at the beginning. I'll just go back to that. My big takeaway, if I were listening to this, is slowing down means moving faster, and spend more time proving that you care, proving that you're worth someone's trust. And what we just heard Frank say was that being responsive and listening and giving through that process actually creates that. I think it's a powerful, powerful takeaway.
Awesome. And Danny, you're up. Last thought or wisdom as we wrap up today's call.
Well, just one comment on Anthony's presentation. That last slide, I think the discipline's definitely my enemy, and there's just so many things we can do, and trying to stay away from that shiny object mentality and just stick with the stuff that works and that we're good at. It's so challenging, and what I always try to remember is that it's a choice. You're choosing to be disciplined, or you're choosing to regret that you weren't in the future. Both are painful. I would say that it's probably better to be disciplined than regret not being down the road.
Love it, guys. Hey, a fantastic call. Thank you both for the time to prepare and the time to deliver value today. Everybody in the Mortgage Coach community, have a fantastic week. Make sure you connect with us, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We'll see you next week, same time. And for anybody who wants to go deeper on how to use Mortgage Coach in a more tactical way, don't miss this Tuesday's call or Thursday's call at 9 o'clock. Take care, everybody. Have a great week.
Thanks, Dave.